Jonathan, you seem to be muted.
It's time for your world's best motor racing talent to scrap it out for virtual glory. If you want to see the top talent racing along with plenty of banter in between, you've come to the right place. It's Team Redline's Real Racers Never Quit. It's all on RaceBot TV. From myself, Jonathan Simon, welcome to the coverage. I've got Samil Aurora alongside me, Randy Cheneth behind the scenes in production, and Samil, welcome back to the action for this Friday evening. Can't wait to get underway in a special announcement to come in a moment's time with our track car combination, which we find out on the day of each race.
Well, firstly, thank you so much, Jonathan. It feels great to be here. And yeah, the announcement should be really exciting. The last time we were racing in the BMW M8 GTEs at Interlagos, this time it's going to be a bit different, but it should be fun to see what it's going to be all about.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's a championship on the line as well, so let's have a look at the standings for that. And as you can see on screen, it's Max Verstappen who leads the standings on 780 points ahead of Kelvin van der Linde. Now, last week, Samil, when I was here in the broadcast, we had the V8 supercars around Watkins Glen, and Verstappen wasn't the quickest. It was van der Linde who ended up taking both wins. When it came to the F3 and the GTEs, we know how quick Max can be, and I can't wait to see in a moment's time how quick he could be potentially in this HPD.
Absolutely, and we've seen so much competition in the series throughout the whole championship. And as you mentioned, Sheldon van der Linde was absolutely on it a couple of weekends ago. Now, in fact, it is Max Verstappen completely on the prowl. He dominated last weekend in the M8 GT, but in the second race, unfortunately, couldn't quite get it done because of some technical issues. So it should be a fun grid, should be a lot of competition in this race, and it should be fun to see who's going to dominate this time out and who's going to be the one chasing the other guy. Should be fun, Jonathan.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So, again, we are going to reveal the track in a moment's time and the car combination, but for the moment, these races are on the fixed setup, Samil, so it means an even playing field for our real racing talent out there. And it gives the drivers as well in the real world, for those who may be watching this for the first time, it gives these drivers a bit of a break from not only the pressures of real world racing, but something to occupy themselves during this tough period in the world right now that we face.
Absolutely. Now that we are faced pretty much in a lockdown situation, you can't really go to the racetracks, and the next best alternative, well, it's quite clearly iRacing. So it does actually offer a lot of practice to a lot of drivers as well. So if you've got a simulator rig that is quite similar to the one in real life, so if it offers you a lot of force feedback, offers you the G-forces, and offers you the kind of vibrations that you get in an actual car, it can in fact not only offer you as a breather, let's say, or a good way to relax on a Wednesday night or a Friday night, it can also offer you a lot of training and a lot of feedback to work on in your actual races. So that's another thing to work out on, and in the end it offers us a lot of good racing as well. So that's the best part to look out for in these iRacing races that we have here on the Team Redline network.
Yeah, I love sim racing, and I love surprises too. So it's time to reveal it. The track car combination for today's event. We're about to approach qualifying in about, I would say, just over 15 minutes time. We know we're racing that HPD LMP2 car. That's the first thing that we know about. That's not a surprise. The car is a tough challenge, Samil. It's not your LMP1, but it's high speed, plenty of downforce, one of the highest tech cars in the world. And of course, HPD stands for Honda Performance Development. It's something that Honda have had a lot of sort of say in terms of the development of this vehicle over the past 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not exactly like an LMP1. It's a bit different, these LMP2s. And it should be extremely fun to drive. I have driven one of them in some simulators. And trust me, it is extremely fun to drive. The drivers will be having a good time over here. And although racing it can be slightly difficult, but you know, the quality of these drivers, they can race with absolutely anything. So it should be a really, really good race, regardless of the fact that these LMP2s are not exactly the most friendliest cars to race with.
Yeah, now it's time to reveal the track. It's, of course, the Suzuka International Racing Course. Quite obvious, as you can see. So the Suzuka International Racing Course, one of the toughest challenges in the world. It's located in central Japan. Now, it's a 5.8-kilometer circuit. It's 3.6 miles in nature. It's a figure-of-8 layout, of course, one of the few circuits out there in the world, along with the likes of Oran Park or even Fiorano, where the track crosses over itself with a figure-of-8 layout. Now, there are 18 corners around here. It's a tight and twisty roller coaster. And if you're wondering, there's 40 meters of elevation change, and the highest point of the circuit from Spoon Curve, one of the toughest challenges as well, all the way down to the lowest point at turns number 1 and 2. And you'll be speeding into those first couple of corners at 300 kilometers an hour in this HPD LMP2 car. As we said before, we're expecting 2 20-minute races after our 10-minute qualifying session. Now, we are using the Grand Prix layout you would normally see in Formula One action. And as I said, Samuel, we're coming closer towards qualifying, and it's a large field of talent out there, around 30, 40 drivers. So if you don't nail qualifying, you'll only have a 400-meter run down to turn number 1 to make positions up.
Absolutely, and the kind of quality that we have here in this very grid, the likes of Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Felipe Albuquerque, Kelvin van der Linde, Tom Dillman, I think Nicholas Hamilton. The last time we were here, I think Stoffel van Dorn was racing as well. So you've got some quality drivers, and we saw the last time out that the drivers were just separated by a couple of tenths. So that the margin for error in these races is absolutely minimal. You just have to be on your absolute best, and if you aren't, well, you could be facing a long way ahead in order to find victory. So it could be a really challenging qualifying session, but again, only the cream rises to the top, and it should be fun to see which driver will be on pole position.
Yeah, most certainly. Now, you talked about Stoffel van Dorn, somebody I raced against about 7-8 years ago in the world of sim racing. I think if you give him time in the cockpit, and I spoke about this last week, he can be easily one of the quickest sim racers in the world. But I'm looking at the timing screens at the moment. He's not in session, and I can't confirm nor not confirm whether or not he's attending today. But with the other plethora of talent we have today, Samil, we've got the likes of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris from Formula One, but let's not forget Antonio Felix da Costa, who promised us later in qualifying he would give us a track guide for his first lap.
That should be fun to watch. Antonio Felix da Costa, as we all know, is one of the top drivers in the world, competing with the Techeetah team actually in Formula E. Just switched teams in the last year, and yeah, Antonio Felix da Costa is extremely fast. Last weekend was, well, pretty decent for him. Made up a lot of positions in the second race, but then again, you need to be good in qualifying to make sure that you have a good race in the end, because you may make up a lot of positions, but if you start up ahead initially, well, your efforts are channeled in the right place, you could say. And we saw last weekend as well, Antonio Felix da Costa was cracking some really hilarious jokes on the lead up to the race, so hopefully, along with the track guide, we get some good jokes with him as well.
Yeah, very light-hearted is Antonio Felix da Costa, and it's great to see him enjoying himself during this tough period in the world right now as the world goes through, of course, this global pandemic. But we're not worrying about that too much. We're worrying about all this on-track action. And one of the drivers I see out there on the grid is Guido van der Garde. Now, he has driven, I think, in the LMP2s. He's definitely driven LMP1s, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody who would be more than experienced in a car like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With the racing team Netherlands in the LMP2 category of the WEC, Guido van der Garde certainly knows what this car, in fact, what this track is all about as well, because I think he's raced here in Formula 1 as well. So van der Garde would definitely be at a bit of an advantage, but let's not rule out the quality of the other drivers. Although not all of them may have raced at Suzuka, of course, considering that it's completely on the other side of the world for many of them, and it's a part of so many different series, not exactly a part of the European calendar. So on-track experience in real life may be a bit limited for many of these drivers. But remember, because we've got sim racing growing up literally, and because it's exploring so much, access to these tracks is almost so easy for all these drivers. Just get in at home, log into your computer, open iRacing and drive. So although they may not have the most on-track experience, certainly their experience on iRacing may count a lot as well.
Yeah, I can't wait for this. So you talked about that. Of course, Guido van der Garde, I mucked that up completely. Of course, an LMP2 driver. Raced, of course, last year with Nick de Vries, and I think it was Fritz van Oord, if I'm not mistaken, was his teammate for the past couple of seasons in the Racing Team Netherlands car. But there you go. So another guy I'm really intrigued to see is how Nicholas Hamilton fares. Can we also make a petition to bring in Lewis Hamilton potentially? I don't know what he's getting up to during the break.
Well, hopefully we do, and when he comes in, we can say, get in there, Lewis. But it doesn't seem likely right now. I mean, of course, he's got a lot of other things to work on as well. Tremendous driver, Lewis Hamilton. Of course, doing a lot of other things apart from racing as well. But if he comes to iRacing, well, it will be one exciting race to watch, won't it, Jonathan?
Yeah, definitely. We've got Jimmy Broadbent racing out there today. I don't know if he's in his minty livery. I'm not quite sure. Probably not. But Jimmy Broadbent, one of the most popular guys out there, of course, Samil, in the sim racing world. He's a popular streamer. Great to see him racing today with the Red Line Bunch.
I'm an absolute fan of Jimmy Broadbent. The way he makes his videos and the kind of content he pushes out is fantastic. Let's not forget though as well that Jimmy Broadbent is a pretty fast driver as well. He's shown us that time and again. So it should be fun to see how he reacts. And along with him, there are quite a few other quality drivers. So one aspect of sim racing that I really love is to see how the professional sim racers merge in with the professional drivers. So that'll just be another one of the things that we get to see on display this weekend here at the Suzuka racetrack.
Yep, there you go. Now, like I said, I can't wait to qualifying because Antonio Felix da Costa is going to give us the track guide as he did last week here in the supercar. Another driver we have out there is Samil. Tom Dillman. Very quick is Tom Dillman, and I've raced against him on iRacing before. I've raced against him in the F3, and let me tell you something. The dude's super quick in the real world, and he comes onto the sim and blows me away in the F3 as well. The guy's super.
Tom Dillman is absolutely fantastic. He's a tremendous driver. I don't think many people appreciate him as much as they should because, of course, his time in Formula E was, let's say, a bit torrid, and that's what people tend to remember the most. But in an actuality, in the lesser seen series like the Formula 3 or even in iRacing, in fact, Tom Dillman is absolutely superb. He's extremely quick, he's consistent, and more importantly, he knows when to do what, when to be aggressive, when to be a little bit calmer, and that is one of the rare qualities that any driver can have. So he's extremely fast, and it should be fun to see how he does in this race, considering the fact that we've got many other quality drivers in the grid as well.
Now, we also have Nicky Katzberg racing. Can we give everybody a sneak preview at home at the practice timesheets? P1 at the moment. Can we do it? I'm going to show you. I'm just hearing word from my producer. We can't show you the graphic, but we'll talk you through it. So, at the moment, it's Max Verstappen with the fastest time. He's half a tenth ahead. Well, no, excuse me, a full tenth ahead of Nicky Katzberg. Then the two Vanderlinders of Sheldon and Kelvin in third and fourth. And we have Augustin Canapino fifth, Danny Juncadella in sixth. And we'll look at that later on. But what I'm intrigued by is Nicky Katzberg, who's in second at the moment. Here's Samil. And Katzberg, to me, is a driver who's been part of Team Redline for quite some time. He's not just an invitee. He does race for the team regularly. And he's pretty quick on the sim, to be honest with you. He has raced before in the Megane Trophy, Formula Renault, of course, too. Plenty of experience in the real world. But I guess, you know, for Katzberg, he can sort of shift his focus now into the sim and start to master this a little bit more.
I guess at this moment, considering what's going on in the outside world, we've got no other choice, have we? The racetracks aren't open. You literally aren't allowed to go out of the house. Might as well get on iRacing and practice your skills over here. And Katzberg, as we have all seen in the real life, is pretty fast. But again, transferring it down from from real life into the sim can be quite difficult. We've seen quite a few drivers struggle a little bit because, of course, the dynamics of a sim they may not be completely realistic. They are, of course, quite realistic, but it is, of course, slightly different. So adapting to it may take a bit of time, but we know quality drivers, they get used to it rather quickly, and Nicky Katzberg is no exception to that.
Now, if you're new to iRacing, every track on this service is laser scanned, and you can get in on the action at iRacing.com, so sign up and grab yourself a subscription. But that means laser scan, Samil, is that every single nook and cranny at this place, every single bump, every single millimeter of this surface, of the track, is to absolute perfection as it was when this track was scanned. And it's a circuit that you're very familiar with. We were discussing this before the broadcast. It has a multitude of overtaking spots where some, I think, will be a little more difficult in the HPD.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, speaking about the laser tracking, laser scanning in mind, firstly, it becomes so realistic that the drivers, when they practice in the sim, and when they actually go out to race on the tracks the very first time, They know absolutely everything about it. Just one video that comes to mind is Jimmy Brodman. He posted a video of himself going on the Nürburgring for the first time, and his instructor was actually shocked to see how much Jimmy knew about the track because of his past experiences in the sim. It is absolutely insane, and as you mentioned, there are some slots where you can pass in Suzuka, notably the chicane towards the end, because of course you come in through the 130 yard, and if you get a good run, you can definitely make a move down the inside of the chicane. Of course, turn 1 can be a bit risky. I mean, if you're bold enough, you can make a move down the inside. Around the outside over there would be very, very audacious. But one slot where it will be slightly tricky would be the hairpin. And of course, we know that this corner, it's preceded by a slight kink. That could be a bit tough to pass for the LMP2 cars. But again, we know some of the top drivers, they won't be afraid to make a move over there, won't they?
Yeah, but now you can see on screen, that was where the figure of 8 layout takes place. That's where the track overlaps the bottom of the circuit. You talked about that final chicane earlier, Samil. I go back, and I don't mean to keep bringing it up. It's quite cliched, but you bring back Ayrton Senna versus Alain Prost in 1989. The classic battle in the McLaren, and they go into that Casio triangle, and it just ends in turmoil for Senna.
I think it is that very moment that perfectly encapsulates all that Suzuka is all about: drama, emotion, action, and the kind of memories that we have here with this particular track. It is absolutely immense. And that moment over there, well, that moment between Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, that just literally is engraved onto the hearts of all Formula 1 fans who watch that race. And we've got Randy typing in the comments, Senna won the championship that year. It was Prost who lost. And of course, yeah, on the technicalities, it was Alain Prost who won that championship. But again, incredible moments that we've seen here at Suzuka, and hopefully, with the kind of drivers that we have here, we can see perhaps a moment that is similar, not as controversial maybe, but maybe a moment that is just as memorable perhaps.
Well, no, so the one that Randy's talking about is the next year. That's 1990, where now Prost is in Ferrari, and this is going into turn 1 at the circuit, and that's where Senna said, Senna's like, you know what, stuff this. I'm just going to throw my car into here. If you're not going to give me room, we're going to crash. And Senna sort of, credit to him, sort of got what he deserved in the end of the day, won the championship. And then again, I don't know how much history we can remember out here. You know, we had, I don't mean to bring it up, but we had the sad incident of Jules Bianchi back in 2014 over at the Dunlop Curve. We've had the amazing overtakes of Kamui Kobayashi at the hairpin. We've had literally a multitude of events happen at the circuit. And I tell you what a great choice by Team Redline to bring this car here.
Absolutely. Another overtake that comes to mind, Fernando Alonso on Michael Schumacher, 130R.
Oh, yes. Baby.
That was bold. And this track, I think it's a very, very good choice by Team Redline, because we saw the last time we had Road America, the last time we had Interlagos, and now we're at Suzuka. So a good run of tracks that we're going to have over here. And this particular track, Suzuka, it's all about your momentum, especially in the first sector, because you have so many tight and twisty corners, the S's, as many people love to call them. It's all about your momentum. You lose that tiny bit of flow, and you could make a mistake that could cost you a lot of time, especially considering the fact that these drivers over here are so tightly bunched up. One small error, maybe a bit of understeer, maybe heading onto the grass a little bit, and it could cost you a lot of positions in qualifying. And in the race, the results could be even graver. So it's a very tight and tricky track, but if you get it right, if you get the flow right, you could get it correct, and in the end, it is one of the more enjoyable circuits around the world.
Yeah, definitely. So you can see the time up. It has, I mean, how long is left? About a minute and a half till we switch to qualifying. Now, one more thing I want to bring up. I'm a massive Formula One fan, Samil. I can tell you are as well.
Yeah.
And we forgot one of the biggest events to happen at this circuit to occur, and that was Kimi Raikkonen's awesome 2005 race, starting from 17th on the grid. Yeah. And to me, it was, believe it or not, over the summer here in Australia, I ended up watching the entire race back. And man, I missed that racing, the racing in that time. And it was a weird time in Formula One because you couldn't change your tires during the race.
Yeah, that was quite a strange period of time. And I think many people say that it was just done specifically to, let's say, stop the Ferrari dominance in particular, because they had been on a roll for a very, very long time. But that said, regardless of whatever it was, the strategy that Kimi Raikkonen took, a very bold and audacious one, but still ended up paying off because of some really fantastic driving. Maybe we should see if there's a Finn on the grid today, because that's the day when the Flying Finn was officially crowned as the Flying Finn with his performance. But yeah, if we see something similar, I think we should definitely be entertained.
Yeah, most certainly. So we're going to be entertained. I can't wait for this. Antonio promised us, and we'll bring him to you in
Yes.
about 20 seconds time. I think we should... Is it too early to switch to him, Randy, our producer? We'll do it soon. So I guess in a sense now, we've got, what, 20 seconds to fill in Samil. How do I do this now? Are we gonna see chaos at the start here? These red line races have been very clean. We got some good talent.
Right, let me make a bold guess. Considering what happened in the last race at Interlagos, I'm saying, yeah, all right, let's go for it. I think there will be a crash. Not that I really want to see one, because of course nothing beats clean racing, but just for the sake of the carnage, let's make a bold prediction and let's see whether or not the crash happens. But to be very honest with you, I don't think there's a real chance, because as you mentioned, these drivers incredibly professional, incredibly disciplined as well. So seeing a crash like that can be a bit rare, but as we saw last time, it definitely is possible.
Yep, so now we're in qualifying. This will be a 10-minute session and only 2 laps available to the drivers, Samil. So 2 hot laps, and if you get it wrong, that's your session over.
Yeah, that could be really tricky. And we've seen with Team Redline, the discipline rules are quite tricky as well. If you go off track, your lap gets discounted. So that is one thing that the drivers must be keeping in mind, because a lot of drivers, of course, they love to cut corners here and there a little bit. And one corner that comes to mind that you can particularly cut could be the Degner curves. So you need to be disciplined as well, and you need to make sure that your lap is fast, clean, and above all, extremely quick. Because if it isn't, you know that you need to pass a few quality drivers before you need to get there up into the top 3 or anywhere even the top 10 as well.
Yeah, most certainly. And I'm someone who's been sim racing for a while, and you know, in HPD, it's not entirely easy to overtake, but these guys are the best in the world for sure in the real world, and it's something that we'll more than look forward towards during the race. So now it's a good time to switch over to our man from Formula E, Antonio Felix da Costa, and here he is, Antonio Felix da Costa. We got you, mate.
Here we go. So you want me to start now?
Yeah, go ahead, mate. Enjoy.
Right,
this is only a route lap, though. Are you going to do the entire first lap?
If you want me to be last, I can.
Go for it, mate.
Okay, so obviously Spoon, this double left-hander, super tricky. This car, there's a particular thing about it here on the game that the first 2-3 laps, there's really low grip. So I think qualifying lap times will be slower than free practice lap times. And obviously this corner, very famous around the world, 130R. Here we can break around the 100-meter board. I'm obviously going to try and prepare and open the lap properly now. So yeah, here I'm going to cut my way short once the lap is done. So starting my quali lap, turn 1, super fun, but as I said, the tires being cold, I'm going to have to go a little bit cautious now. Yeah, so turn 1, super long right-hander, hard to make it stick. Now here we're going to hold third gear through all these S's. Try and make the front stick, hit every apex, so important. Because if you miss one apex, it's going to affect you on all of this sequence. That was pretty neat. And this one, car understeers here a bit. Early on throttle, try and use the whole track on the exit. Yeah, I have room to improve there. Bring it back to the left fully. Downshift to fourth. Use a bit of the curb on the exit, but not too much because it bounces. And now you can clip the inside curb and full exit curb here. Now this hairpin really tricky to make sure you don't lock up the fronts. There we go, that was a bit early on the brakes. Try and make the exit work. Use all the track available. Here we're gonna cut the way short a little bit. Try and not use all the road just to gain a little bit of meters. And now spoon the double left. Third gear, and now down to second for the second part. Bit of understeer still. And there we go. Use all of the exit curb. Cut my way short here again. Try and minimize the distance around the lap. Bring it back to the right. This corner is easy flat. 130R, super famous corner around the world. Try and bring the car back to the left as soon as possible. 100-meter mark. Bit of inside curb. And again. And that's it. Now I'm actually going to have to go for a quick lap because this lap is going to put me P nowhere. So thanks, guys. See you later.
Good luck. Get on pole. So let's wait for... So we brought Samil back in. Samil, Antonio talked us through a lap here. Good luck for him for the rest of qualifying to put that car on pole. But there's your Portuguese DS Tachita driver. He races in Formula E, and it's quite a different beast, the HPD, but he seemed to nail that lap under pressure, so good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He is definitely a very, very fast driver. Currently in P11, but now is the time he gets in a really, really fast lap and maybe gets into the top 5, top 6. But speaking of the top 6, many people were wondering where Lando Norris is. And guess what, guys? Here he is in P6 at the moment. He is in car number 37 and he is 7/10 away from Van der Linde. So it could be a bit of a tough run for Lando Norris. But again, we still have another lap left to go for Lando, and if he gets a better run this time, he could break into the top 3. And Max Verstappen this time out, he is 2/10 away from Van der Linde. So last time out, we saw Verstappen dominating qualifying. Doesn't quite seem to be the case this time out, but Van der Linde doing an extremely good job at the moment.
Yeah, and Norris just during the week shaved his hair for charity, as the on-screen graphic said right there. Now we switch over to Max Verstappen, who's on his second hot lap here on his qualifying run. Now, what was intriguing there, Samil, from Antonio Felix da Costa, was him saying that the tires were going to be quite cold on the first lap. We could expect this second lap to be an improvement for Verstappen. Let's see if he puts it on pole.
Yeah, that could be a major difference. Remember, because when the tires are up to their optimal temperature, that is when you get the maximum grip. And of course, it isn't rocket science, but the more grip you have, the faster you go through the corners. Max Verstappen on his lap, and a good lap that is 1 minute 47.524, and that is provisional pole for Verstappen. So that is a fantastic lap, and Van der Linde immediately beats it with a 1 minute 47.447. This is absolutely intense. So Verstappen no longer on provisional pole. He could be at best on the front row of the grid, but let's see what the others have to offer here.
Yeah, certainly. So those tires are heating up for the second lap. That's the lap we're looking for. Even Antonio Felix da Costa improves to the top 10. I've seen Nicky Katzberg jump into the second row along with Augustin Canapino, and they will start alongside each other there. Now, fifth is Danny Juncadella, and Jordan Pepper will start sixth ahead of Lando Norris. This is Richard Verschoor. He's coming across the line here, and he's got a bit of time to make up. He hasn't set an official lap time yet. That was a 48.5 to win the lap, but he's going to have one more run here, Samil, and I think he's going to find an improvement once those tires heat up.
Yeah, that could be a major decisive factor, and as we know, Richard Verschoor is quite a fast driver as well. Oh, on the outside line a little bit, going on the AstroTurf Verschoor. He's a fast driver, and among these big names, after winning the Macau GP, of course, he certainly fits in there. As we now shift our focus to Mike Rockenfeller, one very well-known driver in the sports car categories. Of course, he drove very well for the Audi R18 team back in the day. Of course, DTM champion in 2013 as well. And Rockenfeller, he certainly knows his sports cars, and so that could help him out in setting up a good lap. But again, we've got some top quality. And Nicky Katzberg, look at that. The difference between him and Max Verstappen, only 7/100ths of a second. That is absolutely insane. So guys, we're just having a look over here. The competition is extremely hot, and
yeah, so it's pretty close right now between the two, of course, as well. And Katzberg nailing his second qualifying run onto the second row. Now, you talked about Rockenfeller, one of the most underrated drivers in the world. He's heading towards the first of the two Degner curves. This has to be, Samil, one of the most difficult corners in the world of motor racing. I remember Formula One returning to Suzuka in 2009, and I think we had 3 or 4 red flags in qualifying. That's how much drivers just weren't used to the Degner complex.
yeah, absolutely. It is incredibly tight and incredibly challenging as well. It may look like a very fun corner when you get it right, but getting it right requires some degree of precision. One crash that comes to mind is the Danny Kvyat accident in 2015 that he had over here. Massive crash. He completely rolled over once he got it wrong, and so it just shows you how precise you must be at this track. I mean, it's a proper old school track. You don't have big runoff areas. Once you get it wrong, you're on the grass, and the implications could be massive.
So, of course, the Degner curves, named after Ernst Degner, used to race in motorcycle racing back about 50 years ago. We're still keeping track of Rockenfeller here. He doesn't have a lap time to his name for the moment. His first lap time was deleted. We'll see whether or not this second run will be quick enough. That lap time could have been deleted for running off the track. That's what the automatic stewards would have determined. He crosses the line, and it's only good enough for P23 for the moment for Rockenfeller as he climbs up through the order. But I don't see many other drivers out there on the racetrack, Samil. It looks like with a minute left, this is almost your confirmed grid, unless, of course, these drivers on screen can make the difference. So what we're hearing as well is these drivers are actually, their qualifying session's over. They're just lapping away their Samil, and they've completed their 2 allocated laps. So these lap times won't count.
Yeah, and that means that we're pretty much done with our final grid. Our live timing over here shows that Max Verstappen is on pole position with the best lap of 1 minute 46.933. Incredible racing over there. And Nicky Katzberg is second with a lap time of 1 minute 47.150. Mikael Jensen, a driver that I know really well from the Verstappen is P2. There seems to be some slight issue with the live timing we're getting over there. So Verstappen in P2, Van der Linde in P1 with Nicky Katzberg in third, Augustin Canapino in P4, and we don't seem to have anyone there in P5 at the moment. So just a bit of a...
So again, the timing screen on screen is playing up for a minute. So that will be repaired come the race. We're about to switch over and look at your grid for today's event. But of course, the grid on screen will include your top 2 in the championship for the moment. So that's the most intriguing part about this, is that Kelvin van der Linde, who will start from pole, is currently second in the championship. He's about 133 points behind Verstappen, and that's what he's going to try and make up here today from Suzuka. Verstappen will start from second alongside him on the front row. Then we got Nicky Katzberg and Augustin Canapino. It's going to be a very short pace lap here. Here's the grid on screen. Very short pace lap. We only start at 130R at iRacing, so we'll go through this grid quite quickly. The rest of the top 10 will be on screen. Danny Juncadella will start from 5th, our former DTM race winner. Jordan Pepper in 6th. Tom Dillman, of course, former German F3 champion, starts from 7th ahead of Lando Norris, our McLaren Formula 1 star. Antonio Felix da Costa gave us a good rundown through qualifying earlier on, but for now, he will only start from 9th ahead of Bruno Spengler. And as we cycle through the rest of the grid, Samul on screen, as I talked about, it's only a short pace lap here. It's weird on iRacing sometimes. We'll start towards the end of the lap, and that means these tires are going to be colder than they could possibly be if we had a full pace lap. And that means the screaming talent heading into turn 1 could struggle here in terms of getting up to temperature.
You can't just make a dive bomb now that you have really cold tires, because normally when you make a move like that heading into turn 1, you want optimum grip from all your tires. At this moment, with a very, very short pace lap, that may not be possible. So it could be a bit of an interesting start. Some drivers going a bit cautious over there. But again, should be fun to see what happens. And the grid looks absolutely amazing. Some quality drivers up there. What happens in the next few laps, and the next few minutes in fact, should be one to remember.
So Jimmy Broadbent starting in the 30th position. We've got Nicholas Hamilton racing today, of course, as well. Brother of Lewis Hamilton, and has previously raced in the British Touring Car Championship as well. Great to see Nick out there having some fun with the boys. But going to flick over to begin your pace lap as the pace car pulls in for the moment. Final words before the start of the race, Samil.
Yeah, this should be absolutely intense. So the guys, on the front row of the grid, we have Kelvin van der Linde and Max Verstappen. What more could you ask for? These two are an absolutely deadly combination, with Nicky Katzberg in third and Augustin Canapino in P4. Canapino, of course, we saw last time out, can be a bit of a star. He's a quality driver, and as you mentioned, with the cold tires, it can be a bit tricky. Oh, we see a bit of bumping going on back there. Some cars heading into the back of each other, again on the pace lap. But right, Jonathan, I think it's about time I hand it over to you, now that we go past the chicane, and now it's time we get into the start.
So your 2 championship leaders alongside each other, fighting for not only a championship, but for bragging rights. Kelvin van der Linde floors it. We go green from Suzuka, for real racers never quit. Brilliant jump by van der Linde. How about Verstappen under a fire here by Nicky Katzberg around the outside. Brilliant move by Katzberg if he can pull it off, but there's no grip there on the marbles. Now we ride on board with the number 4 driver, and he's going to have to form up in the 3rd position.
Well, that was extremely audacious by Nicky Katzberg, trying to go around the outside of turn 1. Couldn't quite get it done, but again, we have just seen the kind of daringness and the boldness that these drivers can have, especially on the first lap. So Van der Linde leads comfortably, Verstappen in second, and Katzberg right there in P3. Thing is falling back just a little bit, and he seems to be under a lot of pressure by Canapino and Danny Juncadella at the moment.
your top 10 have not shuffled at all. They're all in the same positions they started with. Slight contact in the back of the pack as drivers got a bit argy-bargy, but here we head to the hairpin for the first time. Not the best overtaking spot in the HPD. We see a few cars running off the racetrack there at the exit of Vector 2. Now we've got a car around as well. It's the car 7 of Bruno Spengler.
Oh my goodness, we've seen cars flipping around over here. We expected some crashes in the first lap, but not at the hairpin. As we take a look at the replay, Bruno Spengler, the 2012 DTM champion, is definitely involved as we ride on board with him past the second deck now onto the ACHF, so everything's alright by now. As we see the car ahead just spraying in a bit of dirt. And what happens here? It's the apex and Boopy gets turned around from the back.
Yeah, so somebody running a bit hot into the hairpin, and that's Bruno Spengler's day done. Oh, as he slipped. We can laugh because it's virtual racing, but I'm sure Spengler won't be pleased with that, of course, to begin his event here from Suzuka. But now we will end the first lap, and it looks like Max Verstappen is in the lead. He's made his way past Kelvin van der Linde for the first time, so we'll try and keep track of where that occurred. He's ahead of van der Linde, and this is important for the championship, as we discussed. Van der Linde potentially up the inside, forces Verstappen out of the way. Well, actually, he bullies him out of the way there, and that drops Verstappen all the way outside your top 5.
Max Verstappen being hit, and as we take a look at the replay, Verstappen leading this race. Of course, he made a move in the last lap in that easily identifiable orange number 33 car. Now van der Linde comes in, he senses an opportunity, uses the slipstream, and he tries to make a move. Where does he go? Does he go to the outside, inside? Van der Linde says, okay, inside is my turn. So he goes down the inside and just gets a bit too close, and boom, they touch, and Verstappen gets spun around. Verstappen will certainly be one angry driver, but now is the interesting time to see how Verstappen reacts to this. Now he bounces back from this accident to come back to do good in this race.
Yeah, unfortunately for Max, he's down into 7th, and now on the attack on Tom Dillman heading into the hairpin. You just saw that off camera there as the drivers here are all over each other on lap 2 of the event. Here they are on screen. Let's see if the Red Bull Racing driver can pull off this move into Spoon.
Well, Verstappen now on Tom Dillman. This is his chance. Goes down the inside. Max Verstappen, tremendous overtaking. Can Tom Dillman fight back? Not quite. Verstappen is sliding around and he spins off the track. Max Verstappen on his very own spins off the spoon curve. He's doing it very, very hot. Made a good move on Tom Dillman. And guess what? He is spinning out and he's lost a few positions.
So he's down into 9th now. It was a brilliant save by Max, but a huge mistake that cost him. The incident by Atsay Kirchhoff from Race Control, he's one of the best sim racers in the world. He's managing this event. That incident between him and van der Linde is being under investigated. So Max will certainly not be pleased with that, but Atsay's having a look. And as they end the second lap, van der Linde's only got a 1/10 lead here on Nicky Katzberg. The fight for P1 continues as Katzberg searches for that advantage.
Katzberg tried to sell a dummy over there to van der Linde, but van der Linde said, you know what, I'm not falling for it this time out. As we now see Katzberg trying to close in a little bit on the technical section of the track. This is the S's, and back there we are seeing the drivers closing up a little bit. Canapino now just 3/10 behind Nicky Katzberg. Jonathan, this is getting really intense.
Yeah, it certainly is. Here they head through Dunlop. Keep riding on board with Katzberg. Let's have a listen to him. So time absolutely worse there. We'll have a listen to him later on as the camera switches. But well, now we ride back on board with him. Let's have a listen now through the hairpin. Well, the producers love me, don't they, Samil, as we go back on board. I love an onboard shot, but brilliant to see Katzberg, just the way he monitors and modulates the throttle through the hairpin. He's very smooth.
You have to really do that because these LMP2 cars, you just put a little bit of more of the throttle input and you can spin out. The power in these cars is incredibly high and it's very, very easy to spin out in too much acceleration. Now, Max Verstappen on Richard Verschoor. Dutchman to Dutchman. 130R, this could be the chance. Using the slipstream, Verstappen, where does he go? Outside or inside? Verstappen waits. He waits a little bit. Verschoor goes to the outside. Verstappen could see a chance. He goes down the inside. Max Verstappen makes the move on Verschoor. Easy as you like, and Max Verstappen moves up a place. So his second fight back, his fight back volume 2 you could say pretty much, after he spun out against Dillman as well, is beginning, and Verstappen is slowly but steadily starting to make up places.
Yeah, this is awesome for Max. And whilst one Formula One driver makes up positions, he actually started from second, don't forget Verstappen. He dropped down after some contact with Van der Linde, and then on the same lap with a mistake at Spoon Curve. So he's trying to make amends for an unfortunate start for our 8-time Formula One winner. For our other Formula One competitor of Lando Norris, he's actually outside the top 10. He's all the way down in 14th. And issues for Norris at the beginning here. Now, we might have had something happen off camera, but certainly Norris, who started from 8th, I'm not sure where the issues happened, because I do remember up until the hairpin, Samil, he was in that 8th position.
Yeah, Norris, of course, an incredibly talented and popular driver as well. And I think he would have a bit of experience in these LMP2 cars, because he touches Lando Norris going extremely wide there. He hits another car, and he's bouncing it on like a tennis ball, Lando Norris. What's happened here?
And it looked like the driver ahead, that might have been Christopher Miles, just ran a bit too deep into Degner 2. Here's the replay. Let's have a watch. So that's Chris Miles ahead of him.
Oh, no.
Oh, and then you see it, Samil. Norris really had nowhere to go after the mistake, and then it just caused basically a pinball effect.
Jonathan, I guess we've jinxed it. We spoke about Lando Norris just a bit too soon, and just as we did, he had a major accident. And yeah, far from ideal for Lando Norris. He's a good driver. He has experience in these LMP2s as well. Not exactly this very car, but remember, he drove in the LMP2 category at the 2017 24 Hours of Daytona. So he knows the LMP2 category. It will be interesting to see how he fights back, because of course, Verstappen and Norris both having major incidents, and both the Formula One stars now need to fight back. As we dive on board with Nicky Katzberg, could this be his chance? He's not close enough, and is he? Oh, he goes really, really close there, heading into turn 1, brakes extremely late, and now he's on the tail of Kelvin van der Linde. So this could have been an opportunity for Nicky Katzberg, but just not close enough. A good move into braking over there by Katzberg, but again, this could be a chance heading into the hairpin, or perhaps even the chicane if he's good enough.
Now, we talked about drivers faring well in the real world in the LMP2, but Guido van der Garde today has had some issues at the start here, and he's dropped down to essentially last place there on the racetrack. He's running down in 30 seconds, so we'll keep a track of him, of course. Norris officially a DNF as he pulls off the racetrack, and that's going to be critical for the championship. He was third coming into Real Racers Never Quit here for round number 6, but like you said, Samil, keep track of this battle for the leaders. It's Van der Linde ahead of Katzberg, Canapino behind in third. Let's not forget Danny Juncadella, who gets very tail happy there.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the comments are writing that, yeah, bald Lando maybe isn't as fast enough as the full head Lando, but we'll see about that. Maybe race 2 fares him a little bit better, but now we see a lot of battles not really happening at this moment. People are going single file. So this is, let's say, in a game of cricket, you could call this the middle overs, where the play just kind of settles in. And we aren't seeing a lot of action, but towards the end, when these drivers start to attack a little bit more, maybe then we can see a lot of battles. We saw a good, interesting fight there, good, interesting scrap for P3 between Augustin Canapino and Danny Juncadella, but these guys are spaced out a little bit as well. A 1 second gap between Juncadella and Canapino at the moment. But again, it's been a good race so far, and we can expect a lot of fireworks towards the end as well. As we now ride with the top 3, this is Van der Linde from Katzberg, from Canapino, from Juncadella.
Here they go into turn number 1. Boy, what a great shot as they scream into the first corners here at the Suzuka International Racing Course. You know, iRacing has done a thrilling job with this circuit, Samil. It's been on the service for quite some time, but it just looks so beautiful here.
It is an absolute classic Suzuka. The shot of the cars going downhill into turn 1, I think it never ever gets old, and especially this shot as well, past the curves as well. And well, Suzuka, in my opinion, it's a very, very good track to learn your driving with. It's very technical, it's very fast, not enough straights over here. I mean, of course, the back straight being an exception, but with these kind of technical corners, you can really master your driving over here. Once you learn driving on this very track, and of course, it is home to a lot of training academies in Japan, you can be a very, very good driver. The kind of corners that you have over here, it can definitely help you be a really fast, really technical, and really smart driver elsewhere in the world as well. Now we see a battle between the 2 green cars. It is car number 9, this one. I'll quickly get back to you about who that driver is, but we see some good battling going on between 2 green cars and a black one. So who is that car over there?
That's Richard Westbrook ahead in this train.
Westbrook, yeah.
And he's right ahead of Neil Verhagen. And Dennis Marshall is behind them, of course. So 3 very quick talents in the real world of motor racing here. And it's a very striking green livery, isn't it, on that front car of Richard Westbrook?
It really is, and it just makes them a bit more distinct. And oh, we see the guys getting a bit more closer there. Westbrook just goes a bit outside. Good racing between all these three guys, as you see a few of them closing up. This could turn out to be really, really fun. Three really top talents in sim racing heading out against each other as we now go past 130 on. Oh, they touch, they go side by side and there's contact.
Oh, Jesus.
My goodness, Jonathan, that is absolutely incredible.
No, I'm not sure there if Neil Verhagen kept it out of the wall. That was very close, but that was an incident at least 300 kilometers an hour as they headed through 130R, and surprised he kept it out of the wall, actually. There doesn't seem to be much damage to that HBD LMP2 car, and he's going to continue away, although with tires that are quite scrubbed up here, and right behind him here it's Rene Rast versus Jimmy Broadbent. Broadbent around the outside and into the gravel and possibly into the wall.
Well, this is the kind of battle that you really want to see. Sim racers versus real racers. Rene Rast, of course, being a legend of the DTM, and Jimmy Broadbent, he was going side by side. He was trying for a very, very incredible move around the outside, but sometimes the heroics don't work, and Jimmy Broadbent heading into the gravel. Not exactly ideal for Jimmy Broadbent, but being a good driver, he can make up some ground in the next 4 laps.
I'm sure he'll be laughing at that. For anybody keeping track of Jimmy Broadbent, he's also, of course, streaming this race. We know Max Verstappen, Lando Norris certainly do a lot of streaming too. We've had some other drivers as well get on board in terms of streaming as well. So check them out, of course, in your own time. No Stoffel Van Dorn today, but he's been streaming in recent weeks. He's been very popular amongst the service. Had a cold bump draft, and I think it was James Baldwin from Veloci, where he just didn't bat an eye, didn't even change emotion. It was quite hilarious if you watch that clip.
Stoffel Van Dorn, of course, he's ice cool, literally a flying Belgian, you could say. Not an Iceman as such, but yeah, Van Dorn is a tremendous driver, driving, of course, for the Mercedes EQ Formula E team. But Van Dorn aside, we're seeing quite a few good battles. The leaders have spaced out a little bit. Van der Linde pulling ahead a little bit. But again, in the back, we see some cars trying to use the draft, trying to make sure that they get a good run into turn 1 so that they can make a good move. We are now looking at Nicky Katzberg in second place. He's a good driver as well. Falling back a little bit from Van der Linde, but of course, we still have 3 laps left to go, and this could be a good chance for him. And Katzberg, of course, in car number 4. Well, he's dropped down to P4. What's happened to Nicky Katzberg over here? He was P2 a while ago, and there seems to be some issue going on with Nicky Katzberg, so hopefully we can get a replay and see what's happened to his race.
Well, the good news is, as it said at the bottom of the screen, his dinner reservation's cancelled. So he'll make the end of this race, but certainly some issues at the moment for Nicky Katzberg, who was on the attack from Kelvin van der Linde for the lead. So we'll try and figure out what's gone on for Katzberg here, the Team Redline driver. But certainly not what you want with only a few laps remaining in this race. So how do you see this race playing out now that Katzberg's dropped down to 4th?
This could be really interesting because Katzberg was the guy primarily trying to attack Van der Linde and maybe go for his lead. So at this moment, I don't think it would be possible for Canapino to close in on Van der Linde. Of course, both quality drivers, but Canapino is still 1.1 seconds behind Van der Linde, and we don't really have a lot of laps left so far. It could be possible, definitely doable for Canapino, but it would be a hard ask. Juncadella is now in P3, so I think something happened there between Katzberg and Van der Linde, if I'm not mistaken. But let's have a look at that later on. And then we have Jordan Pepper. He's doing a really good job. Jordan Pepper silently climbing up to P5. Tremendous driving from him. And Tom Dillman, as you mentioned, is in P6. But guys, have a look at this, everyone. Max Verstappen is in P7 and he's closing in on Tom Dillman. The gap shows that he's exactly 0.00 seconds behind Dillman at the moment.
Well, this isn't deja vu. This is the second time these two have gone at it.
Oh, down the inside.
Yep, simple move for the Dutchman. And this time much cleaner. So he'll be glad with that one as he fights his way into the top 6 yet another time. So good stuff from Max, but next on his radar will be Jordan Pepper, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly, and they don't call it Super Max for no reason. It seems to be somewhat of a trend that whenever Max Verstappen has a bad start, he really recovers well and ends up having a good race. Just take a look at Germany for that matter. And Verstappen now on the prowl for Jordan Pepper, who's been doing a tremendous job so far. But let's see what happens here. I don't think that Tom Dillman really seems to be attacking Verstappen as much. He seems to have fallen behind a little bit, but Verstappen certainly on the prowl, and with 2 laps to go, he does have a shot at Jordan Pepper, and maybe if he's good enough, at Nicky Katzberg as well.
Now, there's a lot of people new to sim racing. I just want to inform everyone, I've been in sim racing broadcasting for about 6-7 years now. And occasionally we struggle to see as commentators what the producer might be showing. So sometimes if you see something on screen, we sometimes get a little bit of a different feed occasionally. So for the likes of seeing some different moments that have gone on, we can sometimes miss that. Even a commentary can be slightly delayed. There's always a bit of tech issues as the industry catches up, you know, of course, through the high budget production of the real world. So that's just a quick disclaimer, because I've seen a lot of people discuss that, of course, on Reddit in the past as well. It's great to see a lot of new fans to the world of sim racing, and it's just brilliant to inform them on the understanding of how this all works.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the drawbacks of sim racing these days, but I'm sure that over time, as the technology catches up, we will be able to bridge the gap and maybe provide you with live pictures and live commentary at the same time. So don't worry, guys, if the pictures are slightly delayed, nothing to worry about, as we see a battle back there between Antonio Felix Acosta, our good friend, and Sheldon van der Linde. Only 2 tenths separating the both of them, and now look at that, they're so close to each other. Van der Linde trying to attack each other, Da Costa, I'm so sorry, past the S's. If he can make a move over here, that will be incredibly risky, incredibly daring as well. But Da Costa not giving him any room, and this seems to be the battle of the race so far.
Yeah, so van der Linde started in 21st, and he's up 12 positions here. Now, he was quicker, so he's definitely mucked up his qualifying run. You're only allowed 2 laps, so he's definitely quicker than what P21 has gone to show in qualifying, but now he's under... Oh, he's supposed to be all over the rear end of Da Costa there. He's driven into oblivion, as it seems. Now he's popped back up on screen, and here he is on the attack on our DS Tatita driver.
Yeah, this is some good racing. Van der Linde now on the chase once again. We told that this hairpin could be a very, very tough place to make a move, but Van der Linde is a bit daring. Now we are heading towards the spoon. Oh, here he goes. Snap your fingers back again, and he could be back.
Well, this is the technical element of simulation racing for you. You know, this is like an engine failing or an engine starting to go. Let's hope his connection holds up. How about this defensive driving from Da Costa? A little sneaky here. Yeah. Trying to change his line a couple of times, but he'll get away with that. Just trying to break the toe.
Well, Van der Linde is such a magical driver. Not only can he produce magic on the track, he can also disappear within the races. So that's another fun thing. Where's he gone? He seems to be a bit close enough. Da Costa. Oh, here he is, right on the back of his tail. So Sheldon van der Linde disappearing and saying, okay, I vanish, and now I come back right on your tail. So he would have given Da Costa a little bit of a scare, but not too much. Da Costa, of course, a professional driver. He knows exactly what he's doing. White flag is in the air, and we are on the final lap, lap 11 of 11. And at the moment, it is Kelvin van der Linde and not Sheldon in the lead of the race.
Yeah, Kelvin's driven splendidly, and he's got a comfortable advantage here, about 1.3 seconds that he's sustained for most of the event here, as we watch him on screen heading through Spoon Curve and through towards the Degners. He'll come up to the hairpin, which, can we sign a petition, Samil, for everybody to change the name of the hairpin to Kobayashi Corner?
Ah, yes, definitely. That will be memorable. Of course, a small token to an incredible driver who's given us so many memories in his few years in F1. But again, let's take a look at Van der Linde leading in that distinctive blue car. Seems a bit hard for Agustin Canapino to close in. The gap has been virtually the same, around 1.2 seconds, for ever since Nicky Katzberg fell down to 4th place. But this has been a tremendous drive by Van der Linde, leading from the front, being incredibly calm, incredibly composed. He had a few good battles there with Katzberg and Max Verstappen, but that's what he does best. Leads the race from the start to finish and holds his nerve incredibly well. So Van der Linde doing a good job. Canapino in second as we now approach 130R and the final part of the track.
Well, I've seen 3 races now, or I've been in the commentary booth, for 3 races of Real Racers Never Quit, and it's only been Kelvin van der Linde to win all 3. He seems like he's dominating this, much like the old Schumacher days, much like the Vettel days. It's Kelvin van der Linde who will cross the line and win race number 6 for Real Racers Never Quit. It's Team Redline's special event here, and he will head himself onto the podium along with Augustin Canapino and Danny Juncadella. It's a virtual podium, of course, here in the world of simulation racing. For van der Linde's championship rival of Max Verstappen, he falls short of Jordan Pepper for a top 5 position by only 0.3 of a second at the end of the day. You can see the rest of the cars across the line here at the end of the day filling in those final spots. But, you know, like I said last week, Samil, I'm disappointed these drivers aren't all piling up and having a huge crash into turn 1 now after the race. Something funny to see for sure.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing to look out for at the end of the race. As we see, as we're out on board with Martin Kotrick, Well, he's spinning around a little bit in that green car as we see the drivers now disappear. Well, good race, Jonathan. It was an incredible drive there by Kelvin van der Linde from the top. Canapino, of course, finishing in second, so that is a fantastic result for Canapino.
So
And
let's
now-
look at
yeah.
Yep. So let's
Jonathan,
look at
for
your
the
final
results, yeah.
race. Let's look at your final race results for today's event. So it will be Kelvin van der Linde, who wins officially here for Real Racers Never Quit round number 6. He will close in on the championship lead of Max Verstappen. Augustin Canapino on the podium. Brilliant result for him. Very underrated for today's event, along with Danny Juncadella, who's put in some consistent performances and has lingered around the top 5 for the entirety of the past 2 weeks. You saw Jordan Pepper there, the Billy racer from South Africa, in the 5th position. And he will head himself ahead of Max Verstappen, our 8-time Formula One winner, who had an incident with van der Linde earlier on in the event and ended up coming home in 6th at the end of the day on a recovery drive after 2 moments in your early laps. Tom Dillman filed in behind him. Then it was Antonio Felix da Costa in the 8th position. Sheldon van der Linde making amends for his poor qualifying performance, starting 21st, ending up in the top 10. So a good race performance from Sheldon. Rest of the top 10, it was Richard Veshaw who rounds out that 10th position. Here's the rest of the results on screen as we cycle through Samil, but good results for your top 10. Not so for these drivers outside the top 10 now. So we'd hope in this second race we have coming up in a few minutes' time that they get accustomed to this Honda Performance Development car.
Yeah, we saw that last time out as well. A lot of drivers not really on their A game in the first race, but in the second one, they really got their act together as they understood the car better, and then they were able to produce a better result. Good race in the end so far. Good one for Max Verstappen. Damage limitation is the word that comes to mind for Max Verstappen, because after those heavy accidents, you would have expected him to get really a low result. But considering that the championship is on the line, he got settled in very quickly and had a good race in the end. A decent one, in fact, finishing in P6. So, although his championship lead would have been cut short a little bit by Kelvin van der Linde, the damage wouldn't be as much as it would have been if he didn't have a good comeback. So Verstappen doing a decent job towards the end. Van der Linde, of course, winning this race gives him a big advantage. And let's see what's going to happen in round 2 now.
Yep, certainly. So I think it's time to get some comments from these guys post-race. We're going to switch channels and we're going to have a chat to them in just a few seconds' time. Stay with us. Hello, guys. It's the broadcast booth here. How is everybody after the race?
Personally, good.
Not so much in terms of, we saw your accident with Kelvin. It seemed like, what was that, a bit of netcode, I think, between you two, possibly?
Yeah, the action was netcode, but he also dived, so even if it wasn't netcode, he would have touched me. But yeah, it is what it is.
So that's Max Verstappen, Team Redline driver, and of course, Formula One driver for Red Bull Racing. And Max, later on in the lap, I know you don't want me to bring it up, but at Spoon Curve, you had another moment where I'm not sure if the tires are a little bit too hot from the spin you had earlier, but certainly not what you wanted there for an opening second lap.
No, that corner in every car, it's quite tricky, and I think I bottomed out, so then I lost the rear in between the 2 corners. So I think Nicky and Kelvin, they had the same in lap 1, and then Nicky later on. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, it was also not, I didn't lose too much, maybe 3 positions.
Yeah, and then you ended up making them up through the rest of the race. I'm disappointed Lando isn't keeping up with you guys here in the TeamSpeak channel. He had an eventful race. He would have been screaming in the channel for sure.
Yeah, I think he also has some connection issues at the moment, so I think that's why it's a bit like that.
Yeah, 100%. So we also have Antonio Felix da Costa here, and Antonio, you gave us a brilliant lap during qualifying. During the race, was it as eventful as it could have been as well? Up 1 position?
Well, that first lap in quali, I just went slow to make sure I hit every apex for the camera,
we probably got your tires too cold. That's our fault for the second lap.
But the second lap, then I had the pressure to make it stick because I had basically 1 lap only, and it was okay, qualified 9th. So getting better with time. And then the race, I finished 8th. I actually had a contact with Lando. I'm not sure if he's a little bit angry at me, but he kind of went off track. And then when he rejoined, I was right there and I couldn't avoid him. So I was the first one to make him scream probably on his stream.
Can I ask as well, is this car getting easier to drive the more you lap? How is it driving the HPD?
Yeah, I mean, it's so the cold tires is so tricky. The car is super pointy, very oversteery, and then as the tires heat up, it actually comes into a really cool balance. And then, I don't know, Max, if you had the same, but the last couple of laps there was a bit of tire day.
Yeah, the rear was stepping out a little bit, but for me, I was getting faster because of that I had a better balance.
You know, as well, Max, we finally figured out your weakness is that you're quick in every single car in the world except the supercar last week. Should we bring that one back?
I think I've that figured out as well, so that will be fine.
Okay.
Revenge race.
No, I was using the clutch for downshifting, which was destroying the tires. So yeah, it's not smart.
Yeah, you were 100% clutching, weren't you? You probably could have been.
You were using the clutch?
Yeah, because I couldn't blip.
Mate.
Well, there you go. Final comments from you guys for this next race. What are we looking out for here? Same things from race 1? Are you going to approach this differently? What's going on here?
Well, I need to just qualify one better. But yeah, the speed is good. I just hope for a little bit of a clean race.
Yeah, I need to qualify 8 better, so.
I think you can do it because we won't interrupt you this time. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no excuses now.
All right, we'll leave you guys to it. Have fun for the second
mate.
race. We'll jump up to the and I think that's everybody here. We'll drag Samil in a second. So there he is. And Samil, we talked to them post-race. We're just jumping in for race number 2 here, but great to see a bit of lighthearted fun between the guys.
Yeah, that's the important part. I think in the end, no matter how hard you race, no matter how hard you compete, it's all about making good friendships and all about having a bit of fun with the other drivers. So that is an essential component. But now it's time for race 2 very, very shortly. It should be fun to see how this one pans out, considering now that the drivers will have a better idea about the cars. So it should be fun, it should be more entertaining.
Yep, so we're coming in towards this second event. We got a practice session coming up for the moment. I'm not sure if I'd say Kirchhoff, who's in race control, will advance the session, but we got at least at the moment, unofficially, 13 minutes to qualifying begins. So it's plenty of time, Samil, for us to wrap up race number 1 for the final time. Then we'll take a quick short break. The thing with race number 1 is, again, we learned a lot. We learned how the car behaves, the overtaking spots. Come race 2, anything else to expect as well? I don't know if there's anything new. That the track temperature's pretty much the same. It's at 27 degrees. I think we're just going to see our drivers sort of handle this car a little bit better.
Exactly, that could be one factor. And now that they know just a little bit more about how to drive this car, maybe they can get a bit more of heat in the tires a bit quickly. Maybe they can warm up the tires a bit faster, so that could help out in providing more grip and maybe some more predictable racing and perhaps a slightly cleaner but a more entertaining race in terms of the battles and the excitement that we see. It should be a good one, Jonathan. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, we'll see how we go now. It's definitely looks like there's a bit of cloud cover coming in behind the scenes, but we'll talk about all of that on the other side of this. You're watching Real Racers Never Quit for round number 6. Race 2 coming up in a few minutes' time. So we're back here for qualifying. It's going to be race number 2 for Real Racers Never Quit. It's Team Redline's special event in the HPD LMP2 car around the Suzuka International Racing Course. It's Jonathan Simon alongside Samul Arora in the commentary booth. And we come into a second qualifying session here. Samil, we're hoping to see the likes of Lando Norris come back and enter the session. I think we're almost confirmed that he is. And it gives him another opportunity to make amends for his incident-filled first race.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people in the stream waiting for Lando Norris, of course, being big fans of the driver. He's incredibly popular in Lando, and he's literally a teenage sensation, you can say, worldwide. And watching him do well would make a lot of the fans of the stream incredibly happy as well. But Lando needs to do a bit better, needs to understand the tyres a bit better, of course. This car is extremely different to what he usually drives, and if he can do a good job, well, the reactions from the public would be immense.
So we can't confirm any championship, of course, through today, but we do know that the gap's being closed down by Kelvin van der Linde in race 1. He's very close here to the likes of Max Verstappen after that abysmal first race for Max, wasn't it? He was caught up in one very unlucky incident for those that missed it. And then, unfortunately, just due to the tyres and the situation, Max was very hot going into Spoon Curve. Come this second race, Max told us in post-race interviews, Samil, he's not going to qualify second. He wants to be first.
Yes, that is the Max Verstappen way, isn't it? It's either first or absolutely nothing. I love his driving style. I love his driving style, Max Verstappen. He's so aggressive, he's so hard, and that just makes up for some really aggressive and some really entertaining racing with Max. So with him around, and him not dominating, let's say, maybe in the back of the field, someone and fighting up the field, you can never ever expect a dull race, because this guy, the way he can overtake, the kind of finesse that he has on the brakes, well, it is just amazing. There's no reason why they don't call him Super Max. He is fantastic, Max Verstappen, and it's hard not to be a fan of his driving.
And here he is on screen. He's heading towards the hairpin here at Suzuka. We ride on board with our 8-time Formula One winner, the youngest winner in Formula One as well. I remember that race at the Circuit de Catalunya in 2016. What a cracking one. Let's follow him through the end of the lap. Let's have a listen to him here all the way to the start-finish line.
First lap for him, right?
Yep. So it'll be the first lap for Verstappen. And you'll have a second run at it. So what we saw there was a mistake at Spoon Curve. I believe he'd probably run a little wide here, although he hugs the inside, tries to make amends for this lap time. But what we saw in the first qualifying session earlier on, Samil, was that the second lap was the best of the two.
Yeah, so that's when you really get your momentum going in. That's when you get the heat in your tyres. That is when you can get in and set a good lap, as we see Verstappen heading past turn 1 over there. Good lap so far. I mean, it's been pretty clean past the first few corners as we now head onto the S's. And with Verstappen, you can kind of expect a good qualifying with him. I mean, he's a tremendous qualifier. He's not really had the best qualifying pole position record in Formula 1, but we know that this guy can be absolutely flying when the qualifying session comes in.
Yep. Car certainly makes a huge difference when it comes to that. So flies through the Degner curves here. This is what I spoke about earlier. If anybody's watched the 2009 Formula One qualifying session here, it was a session that went on for quite some time. A lot of red flags just due to a lot of incidents here. Also the Timo Glock crash at the final corner, which unfortunately he got quite badly injured there as well. But Verstappen currently in 10th. We're expecting him to improve. If you can look at the timing screens on the left-hand side of the screen, you can keep track of the rest of the order. And it looks like Norris is in 3rd ahead of, that's Sheldon van der Linde in 4th. But Kelvin has the 1st position again.
Well, Kelvin is just dominating this race weekend. He has been so fast. In the first race, of course, we saw him doing an incredible drive, of course. Led so many laps, did such a tremendous race, and ended up winning it. And in qualifying for this one, he seems to have the upper edge. But now Max Verstappen is on the prowl. He is heading towards the chicane. And now for the final few corners, let's see how he does. Canapino, for this matter, is 2nd with only 2 tenths separating him and Van der Linde, with Lando Norris in third. 5 tenths Lando Norris, of course, behind Kelvin Van der Linde. And Norris now goes to second place, and Verstappen on pole. 1 minute 47.462. And all of a sudden, Max Verstappen is on pole position, and Van der Linde snatches it once again. Incredible.
So the gap between the two there on screen, the graphic's a little wrong on screen, but the official gap is around 1/10 of a second between Kelvin van der Linde and Max Verstappen. What a thrilling end to qualifying for those two, but the times keep piling in here. It's Norris and Sheldon van der Linde on the second row, Canapino and Katzberg as well, very quick in this car. Good surprise to see Dries van Thor starting from the 7th position so far. He's ahead of Tom Dillman. Slotting ahead of them, though, is Mikkel Jensen in the 3rd position. Now Jordan Pepper up into 6th. The times are starting to flock in as the track starts to grip.
It is absolutely insane. All these drivers are just getting a hang of this track, getting a good flow of it, and now we see the lap times tumbling. Harry Tincknell, of course, seems to be in pole at the moment. No, that's just live timing going a bit bonkers at the moment. But yeah, good qualifying session so far. We're seeing Rene Rast set in his lap time. Rast, of course, an extremely experienced and a very, very fast driver in the DTM category. Champion, of course, in 2017 and 2019. But these sports cars are different. But still, Rene Rast is a quality driver, and put him in any car, he will still do a good lap. Rast now approaching the 2nd sector of the track now for the Spoon Corner. I love this one. It's a very tight one. I mean, it's a challenging corner, Spoon Corner. If you get it right, it is extremely satisfying. But if you don't, it can be incredibly tight and incredibly hard to recover from your mistakes. Heads on to the backstretch. Rene Rast, now just a few corners to go, including the iconic 130R. Here he comes. Flat left corner for Rene Rast. Hits the apex, goes to the outside a little bit on the AstroTurf. Now brakes hard for the chicane. Where will this lap put him? Jonathan, what's your take on this one?
I'm surprised there's grip there on the outside 130R. So for Rene Rast, comes across the line here. He doesn't have a time scored to his name for the moment. And you'll cross the line. I think he's actually... That lap was deleted, so he's going to begin a new one here. So if you're wondering why he hasn't had a time there, he's going to have one more shot at it here with 2 minutes to go. And for Rene Rast, he's under an immense amount of pressure, because if he doesn't nail this lap, Samil, he's going to start 30th.
Exactly, and that is a really, really tough ask, regardless of whoever you are. I mean, of course, we know that Rast is super quick, but starting from P30 with so many quality drivers up ahead of you, that's going to be one tough ask for anyone. Van der Linde still in provisional pole position, Max Verstappen in 2nd, and Mikkel Jensen, the guy has been doing a tremendous job. Of course, Jensen driving LMP2 cars for a living pretty much. He races in Europe for most of the year, and Jensen, of course, came to India in the X1 Racing League recently, and I had a good chat with him, and he is super fast. So expect to see a lot of Mikkel Jensen in this race. Not a big difference between him, Van der Linde and Verstappen at the moment, but now let's ride on board with Rene Rast and take a look at what he's doing. Approaching the Spoon Corner this time, and after Mikkel Jensen, of course, we have Lando Norris, the superstar you could say, and Sheldon van der Linde in P5, with Jordan Pepper in P6, Canapino in 7th, Niki Katzberg in P8. Not exactly the qualifying that he would have expected, but again, he can do good from there. Now Rene Rast is approaching 130R, and Jonathan, will there be grip on the outside this time?
Well, let's see. Hugs the inside here. He's nailed the lap. So what iRacing gives, it's called an off track. And if you cut the track, your time gets deleted. You receive what's called a 1x, which is 1 point. 2 incident points. I'll explain the rest of the process later, because here's Rene Rast to cross the line, and he will promote himself up into 17th. So decent job there. He was under an immense amount of pressure to keep himself off that 15th row in the 30th position. And he bumps down Mike Rockenfeller to the 30th spot, but that is qualifying almost done, and in about 10 seconds time we'll be able to officially look at your grid for today's event. But like we said, it'll be another 20 minutes of action, and it will be 11 laps of racing coming up, so that will be around about 20 minutes here at Suzuka. It's time to look at your grid for race number 2 of the day. So Kelvin van der Linde will start on pole, the ADAC GT Masters champion from last year. He'll start ahead of Max Verstappen. That's a carbon copy front row, to be honest with you, with race 1. So let's see if it fares a little cleaner this time out, as the two came to incident in race number 1. Mikkel Jensen was the surprise in this second qualifying session, ahead of Lando Norris. Sheldon van der Linde dropped down to 5th, qualified a little poorly compared to race 1, but still a good performance from the BMW DTM driver. Then you can see the rest of the top 10 that will cycle through on screen. Is it weird to say, Samil? You know, Augustin Canapino and Nicky Katzberg are very quick on a simulator. To see them down in 7th and 8th is quite a surprise, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, these two drivers are proper quality. I mean, they're proper class. And seeing them down there, well, it may feel a bit awkward, but it is just a reminder of the quality that we have here on display in the Red Line Real Racers Never Quit series. So, just a testament to the kind of quality that the drivers we have. And for them, it is a good opportunity to show what they're made of, because after a tough qualifying session, only the best of drivers can bounce back and have a good race. It can be a bit of a mental setback for some having a bad qualifying, but for these drivers, considering how mentally strong that they are, it should be just another opportunity for them to show the world about just how good they are as drivers.
Well, here we go now. It's going to be a short pace lap. So the way it works on iRacing at Suzuka is we're going to begin the pace lap here. That's going to mean the rubber is going to be quite cold here on this Honda Performance Development LMP2 car that we're using for today's event. Of course, we have 3 races per week. Stay tuned for next week. That will be on Monday, the 6th of April, in a few days' time. That will be for more racing action in your Formula 3. One of my favorite cars on the iRacing service, Emil, and it's one that I quite enjoy jumping into the cockpit in each day. It's pretty much the daily car for me on this service.
It is quite an enjoyable one to drive as well, and thankfully for iRacing we've got so many fantastic cars to choose from, so many good cars to drive, so many fantastic tracks, laser scanned of course. So if you aren't on iRacing yet, what are you waiting for, guys?
Well, here we go. Coming towards the start of the event. Look at Max Verstappen trying to get heat into the rubber. Kelvin van der Linde is in the darker navy colored HPD. Let's watch the start of the race here for round number 6. It's race number 2 of the day.
Here we go, the pace car is in, and this is where the fun begins. Green flag, and everything is up in the air. Kelvin van der Linde leads this race from Max Verstappen. Lando Norris in P3 at the moment is getting a bit close with the other drivers over there. Max Verstappen tries to make a move, not close enough as Norris defends frantically over there back in P3.
No contact down the back of the pack, although it's getting quite close between each of the drivers here. We've got 2 by 2 down the middle end of the order here as we watch Katzberg and Canapino battle for positions. They're going to form up through the S's here to begin the race, but it's van der Linde who leads ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Norris. Mikkel Jensen down to 4th at the start, ahead of Sheldon van der Linde. Jordan Pepper down to 6th. That's your top 6 to begin this race, heading to the Degner curves.
It's been quite neat and tidy so far, and I mentioned so far because it could get a bit exciting just in a couple of moments over here as we head towards the hairpin and exiting the Degner curve. This is a very, very tough part of the track to overtake in, but as we have seen time and again, drivers aren't shy to make moves over here. Do we have anyone moving in? Not exactly, as Verstappen just closes in a little bit on Kelvin van der Linde. The last time we were here in the last race, we saw some major accidents at this very part of the track, and now we see Verstappen chasing van der Linde as we now ride on board with him.
Yeah, good stuff from Max. This is where he made that mistake on lap 2. He talked about it post-race to us. He said he bottomed out as he threw that Honda onto the curb, and now they head on towards the back straight on this mad run down to 130R. There's van der Linde trying to break the slipstream, and the train follows behind. And rest of the field looks like it's going to remain stagnant here for the first lap. But like I said, it's van der Linde who leads at the end of the first lap. From Verstappen, from Jensen, Norris, the other van der Linde, it's Sheldon, then it's Pepper, Canapino, Katzberg, Van Thor, and Tom Dillman rounds out the top 10. Have a look at your scrap here down the top end of the order. I thought it was closer in that camera shot, Samil, but I got it completely wrong. The gap's about half a second between the two.
Yeah, they are just the gap is just growing in a little bit, but Verstappen, as we know, is a quality driver and he can close it down any moment he likes to. So he'll just maybe get a hang of the car, maybe settle in and then go for the attack. As we now see a battle going on back there. This is Neil Bergen in P2. I'm sure I've butchered the pronunciation, but yeah, he's doing a good job so far at P12. This could be a good opportunity for him to climb up the order and show what he's made of, but at the moment he is under some really hard pressure in P12 at the moment, as we head towards the technical curves.
Yeah, this is your BMW factory driver who runs very deep into Degna 1. And look at this behind as well. This is Esteban Muth, who's going to have a look into the hairpin. And on the defensive here is Verhagen. Contact between the two as well. That's going to allow Bruno Spengler an opportunity behind as well to make his way past. And the car spun around and stricken on the racetrack. Who's that? It's Antonio Felix da Costa.
Poor Antonio Felix da Costa. We just had a chat. Oh my goodness, he's bouncing around over there. What's going on? It just gets bad to worse for Antonio Felix da Costa. We had a good chat with him before the race.
So we can't see a replay of the incident at the moment. We'll try and find it for you, but we'll certainly speak to Antonio after the race if he's available. But it's an incident where, yeah, we'd love to know what happened to him, unfortunately. We're glad this isn't the real world, because that could have ended, that could have been quite a hair-raising incident for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Da Costa, of course, having a major accident over there. We spoke to him before the race and he said that he wanted to have a good one. His approach was positive and he wanted to see how far up he could get. And then this crash happened, so it all is going downhill for Da Costa. I'm not very sure if he's in the race or not yet, but that was a mighty accident. We'll tell you more about it once we see the replays, but for now, Kelvin van der Linde leading from the front. And Van der Linde with a lap time of 1 minute 47.698 with the fastest lap as well.
Yep, there you go. Race is on between these guys. And again, through the Dunlop curve they go. 30 years going to have a part to play, I believe too. So, to be honest with you, Samil, overtaking won't be the easiest, but again, this is your world's best talent. It's just awesome to see, by the way. And we focused a lot on them in this race, but to see this top three at the moment of Van der Linde, Verstappen and Norris fight it out yet again for another race win. I mean, the entertainment we've got here in these Team Redline broadcasts is just absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. The quality here is certainly on the top level. As we now see the race settling in a little bit, heading into lap 3, not too much of action going on so far. But again, it could change at any moment in time as we see Verstappen gradually getting closer to Kelvin van der Linde with Lando Norris right behind him. Could be a fun one this when Verstappen just settles in and tries to get closer, and when he gets into his momentum and his rhythm, that is when we could see this battle between van der Linde and Verstappen truly heat up. But for Lando Norris, Jonathan, he had a pretty poor race, let's call it that way, in the last one. So far, P3 is not a bad result for him.
I think he, after we discussed post-race, it looked like he might have had a collision with Antonio Felix da Costa. Here we go. Battle for the lead, though, as Verstappen creeps in. And as they creeping closer and closer to turn 1 and 2, they don't seem to be exchanging positions this time round. It was quite a carbon copy of race 1, isn't this? But remember last time, Samil, at the end of lap 1, it was actually Verstappen who led the race. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, so could be a bit of a role reversal in this case. Verstappen is now getting closer, inching towards Kelvin van der Linde. And as you correctly mentioned, Verstappen was in the lead the last time out. Let's not speak about what happened to Verstappen in the first race, or else we may jinx it. But again, he's closing in. Oh, look at that. Look at how aggressive Max Verstappen is getting, bouncing up over the curves, and it just shows you the kind of tenacity the man has. He really is in the mood, and he just desperately wants to get that win here, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, now, down in your mid-pack, as we watch the battle for the lead, I'm looking at the timing screens. There's a lot of close scraps, including Richard Verschoor, Danny Juncadella, of course, too. Let's not forget Christopher Mize, who's down in the 15th position. They're all in a tight... Well, here they are on screen into the hairpin. You can see how tight it is. And as I told you, Samil, I was keeping track of that off screen, and it didn't disappoint when we switched to the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we thought that the racing would just be confined to the top, but this mid-pack is not disappointing us as well. Oh, he gets close in on the curb. Very good racing that we're seeing here between these guys. And now, Jonathan, We expected the racing to be a bit dull heading into this one, considering how hard it is to pass in the LMP2s in Suzuka. But guess what? They're going completely at it as we see a couple of drivers going side by side on the approach to 130R. It's been amazing so far, hasn't it, Jonathan?
No, I like it. Brilliant car track choice by Red Lion as they head into the Casio Triangle. Very deep on the brakes is your field here as they scramble for position. This is Esteban Muth versus Neil Verhagen. We've seen a lot of these two scrap it out. And they're going to continue this battle into turn one. Slipstream battle. It's Bruno Spengler behind as well, ready to pounce on the two.
Nice.
Side by side with each other into one. Spengler also taking the opportunity here on Verhagen through the inside. We ride on board with the DTM champion. Nice stuff from these guys to keep it clean as well.
It can be a precarious situation for Verhagen at this moment because you need to attack desperately to get that position, but at the same time you need to be aware that there's a driver right behind you trying to get that place in. So the approach is going to be very, very different. Could be potentially cautious, could be potentially very active to get that position up ahead. But Verhagen in a tricky situation at the moment, and that was some incredible racing. Wheel-to-wheel racing here into turn one, and now Verhagen goes for the move down the inside. He just overcooks it, and look at that. That is some proper opportunistic racing. Oh my goodness, I never expected anything quite like this at the hairpin. And Jonathan, that is magnificent.
And potentially a triple whammy here, as it looks like Rene Rast is going to capitalize on Esteban Muth. He runs it deep in a spoon curve, just keeps it on the tarmac. And nice to see these guys scrapping it out with a bit of argy-bargy. A little blood never hurt anybody. Now, whilst that's taking place, Verstappen's dropped to third. He's dropped behind Lando Norris. So issues for Max Verstappen in your lead group.
Max Verstappen now falling back. Lando Norris is in second place. We have not really a good idea about what happened to Verstappen. Really, 7/10 behind Lando Norris. It is going to be hard to catch Lando, considering that he's a pretty fast driver, full of good quality. But again, we know Max, he can be pretty fast. And Max so far has appeared to be the fastest driver between himself and Lando Norris this weekend. Let's see what happens here. But there's a battle brewing up for P4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it looks close between Jensen and Sheldon van der Linde. They're coming in towards the Esther section. You can see the multitude of different lines through this first sector between the two. But the issue now is it's all about overtaking, isn't it? Because if you're, let's say, Mikkel Jensen or even Max Verstappen, if you're about 1 or 2 tenths quicker than Lando, it's just not going to be enough to make a move.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing getting on the tail of someone, it's absolutely another thing they're trying to get past. So this could be one of the major challenges for these drivers, as we now see a move potentially being made by Sheldon van der Linde. Not quite. He's just not close enough as Jensen smartly blocks off the line. And this is some good racing so far. I mean, I think van der Linde will be trying. Oh, he's flashing his headlights. He's saying, come on, Miguel, make a move, get aside. And this should be fun to watch as van der Linde closes in a little bit, heading into the spoon section. And now, this should be fun. Van der Linde will be getting a whole lot of draft heading into 130R. And the question is, can he make it stay? Because 130R is a notorious corner. On the outside, there isn't really a lot of grip. But the most daring of drivers can make a move over here. As van der Linde just holds it out, potentially looking for a move heading into the chicane. As they try it, not quite, tries to sell the dummy. But Jensen quickly blocks off the line. And Jonathan, who do you think is going to come ahead on this battle?
Well, we'll wait and see. Van der Linde right now is certainly confident at this point of the race. He's trying to search for different lines of the work, trying to use the draft. So we'll see whether or not in these next few laps he can make the move. It's lap 7 of 11 now. So we're in towards the second half of the race. The thing I like now is that you can see that the track's starting to get darker. It's the beauty of iRacing's dynamic weather. The cloud cover starting to cover the sun. That means the track's going to get more grippy as it gets colder. That's the way it works on the iRacing service.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be of a good advantage to the drivers. Of course, faster lap times, colder temperatures, and this could mean the drivers being even faster and potentially getting into a good flow. As we now see Jensen being chased up by Sheldon van der Linde. Look at the kind of dust he's spraying off as he heads slightly off the track. As we discussed previously, Jonathan, this track is unforgiving. If you go wide, it just doesn't leave you for free. I mean, in terms of the other tracks like we have, so let's say the Circuit of the Americas or the more modern tracks like Yas Marina, you go wide and you have a whole lot of AstroTurf to go on from. So there's a lot of room over there. But in this track like Suzuka, you have gravel and you have grass. So one mistake and the implications could be really heavy.
Well, look at that on screen there, right ahead. So that was Mikkel Jensen off the racetrack. And luckily, the thing you want to do there at Spoon is you don't want to sort of bottom out on the curb. You either want to run completely out wide like Mikkel Jensen there, or you want to just obviously hit the line perfectly. And luckily for Jensen, he doesn't lose too much time as we watch. This is your top three, followed by the peloton behind, the rest of the mad scrambling pack as we head into lap 8 of 11.
And now, is this Max Verstappen closing in on Lando Norris? Yes, indeed it is. Verstappen getting closer, flashing his headlights, and this could be a chance for a move. Using the draft, where does he go? Outside or inside? Not quite yet for Verstappen, not even in the second apex of this corner. He's slowly lining Lando Norris up. It seems at the moment that Kelvin van der Linde is out of their reach, as these guys, when they scrap, they will be allowing a lot of breathing space for Kelvin van der Linde, who can just use this opportunity to get past and to cement his place as the leader of this race. Now Verstappen getting even closer, and now, Jonathan, could this be a chance for a move heading into the hairpin?
Yep, let's have a look. Whilst this is taking place, we're hearing Verstappen lost it from behind the scenes here. We're hearing Verstappen lost it coming out of turn number 2. So, unfortunately, just due to some technical issues, we can't bring you the field. But here he is on screen. This is what I'm talking about. This is from about 6 laps ago. This is when he lost the position to Lando Norris, and he dropped down to 3rd. So this is why he's dropped down from his starting spot to the 2nd position. Here he heads into Spoon Curve. And for Max, he's got a lot of work cut out for him in these closing laps. You know, the mind games I love, Samil, here between the two. You know, some of the drivers flashing the headlights, trying to get in the head of the driver ahead. The problem I have is I used to drive in World Championship sim racing. If you're looking in your mirrors too much and you see that, I'm telling you, the drivers behind can get in your head for sure.
Yeah, that is one interesting part about racing. It's pretty much like a game of chess at 300 kilometers per hour. That is so interesting because you literally can play into the mind of the other guy and perhaps force him into making a mistake. That is one of the more traditional arts of trying to get past on a tough and tricky track like Suzuka. Verstappen now closing in a little bit, using the draft as we now see him go on to 6th gear. This doesn't quite seem like a chance for him to make a move. We're currently on lap 9. Oh, he gets really close over there. A bit of slow going for Lando Norris heading into the first corner. And Max Verstappen instantly gained a lot of time heading into turn 1. He's getting closer slowly but steadily. And this could be a chance for Max Verstappen as this battle now heats up for P2. But up ahead, Kelvin van der Linde just saying, bye-bye guys. It's a good, lovely Saturday night drive for me. I'm having fun over here.
Yeah, the problem is right now, it looks like it could be a double win for van der Linde again here on the Friday. And the problem for Verstappen is he picks up a lot of dirty air here behind the McLaren Formula 1 driver of Lando Norris as they head towards the hairpin yet another time. So whilst these guys scrap, we've got battles throughout the field. Augustin Canapino all over the rear end of Nicky Katzberg. This is where they are on screen at the moment. And Canapino, again, they've remained behind each other for the entirety of this race. Canapino started ahead of Katzberg. They switched in the early laps, and it looks like Augustin just has seen the rear end of Nicky for the entirety of this race. It's not the most overtaking we've seen compared to race 1.
Yeah, it's not been as entertaining, let me call it that way. The drivers have been a lot more disciplined, a lot more stable. We kind of expected that with the temperatures falling a little bit and with the drivers getting a good idea about the car, you would see them being a bit more confident and a bit more aggressive. But certainly that hasn't been the case. That said, Jonathan, we still have a couple of laps left and it could promise for a good ending towards the end. Let's see what happens over here.
Yeah, definitely. Can be a thrilling ending to this race. They begin the penultimate lap of the race. So 2 laps to go here. Van der Linde's got a comfortable advantage on Lando Norris. It looks like Kelvin van der Linde is going to again creep in on Verstappen's championship lead. You just wait till Verstappen jumps in the F3 though. That's all you'll be saying in his head. Can't wait to jump back into a car that he's mastered. You know, I've seen a lot of world records from him. He and Akshay Kirchhoff, they drive the car a lot in their spare time. And if I'm not mistaken, the two also worked together when Max Verstappen was in Formula 3. Raced for Van Amersfoort, and he worked together with sim racer Akshay Kirchhoff, who was the sim racing coach for the team.
And that is just another good insight about how much sim racing is evolving. And real professional drivers and drivers as good as Max Verstappen are actually using it as a tool to perfect their driving. And look at where they are right now. So it just shows you how much sim racing is growing over the years. And guys, if you aren't on sim racing and if you aren't on iRacing yet, come on, go get a rig, go get a setup. This is something that you'll definitely not regret. You can improve as a driver while having a lot of fun on the track. And right now, we're seeing some good racing on the track at the moment. A bit for, oh my goodness, that is one driver going incredibly wide. I'm not really sure about who that was, but that was a very leery moment for one of the drivers heading out of the Degner curves.
Yeah, not a good moment for them heading out of the second of the two Degners. You can get away with that though. There's a slight bit of grip out there, but of course you want to be on the tarmac ideally, as we see your field here head to 130R for the second to last time through this race. It was Mikkel Jensen who pretty much killed it in qualifying. Set a thrilling lap, didn't Mikkel Jensen? And he's going to finish this race potentially in fourth if he can stay ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, who's tried every trick in the book right now to make his way past Mikkel. But on this final lap, he's not going to have many opportunities left, is Sheldon.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time to go. The white flag is in the air and we're heading into the final lap of the race. Now, Sheldon van der Linde just closing in on Mikkel Jensen as he has been for the entirety of this race, but it just doesn't seem to find a way past. So van der Linde getting ever so closer. There is not a lot of opportunities left for van der Linde to make a move. If he has to get something done, he has to get something done rather quickly. As we have a look at this battle, Lando Norris also setting in a fastest lap, a 1 minute 46.916. So it's been a good race for him so far, and Verstappen doesn't seem to be getting a move in as such at the moment. Lando Norris closely holding his second place, but Kelvin van der Linde very much in P1 as we see something going on here. Mikkel Jensen has made a mistake, hasn't he, Jonathan?
Jensen's run wide coming out of Degner 2, and he's lost a bit of traction. Luckily keeps the car pointing in a straight line. That's going to drop him down to fifth. But like you said, for the moment up in the lead, it's still van der Linde ahead of Norris, ahead of Verstappen, and Verstappen's running wide. He's going to try everything here to get the run coming out of Spoon. I'm not sure if if this is going to work right now. He's tactically using that. I think he's going to be a bit too far behind. So for Mr. Verstappen, he's going to remain in third. Here are your top five on screen. Have a look behind between Jensen and van der Linde. The battle's still on between those two, but for Kelvin van der Linde, he's going to win 2 from 2 today for Red Lions. Real Racers Never Quit. It's the second race of the day for round number 6 as Kelvin van der Linde closes in on that championship advantage of Max Verstappen, who comes home in third. Lando Norris ends up splitting the two. He finishes on the podium in second. It's Sheldon van der Linde who heads himself ahead of Mikkel Jensen there in the closing stages. They round out your top 5 after Jensen lost the 4th position on the closing lap. And we're still racing here to close out the race down your mid-pack.
Yeah, that was some heavy weaving as we saw over there. Now a couple of drivers heading into the finish line. Oh, what's happened? Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, he's crossed the line and he's just stopped over there. I'll just come back with who that driver was. But Jonathan, not exactly the most entertaining race in the world, let's call it that way, but certainly a good one in terms of showing how fast the drivers can be.
And we can unofficially say we'll get official confirmation when we drop down and speak to the drivers post-race, but this may potentially confirm Max Verstappen as the champion for Real Racers Never Quit. He's got a comfortable advantage here on Kelvin van der Linde, even though today wasn't his day. But let's take a look first at your final race results. So there is Kelvin van der Linde closing in on Max Verstappen's championship lead with 2 race wins, but we don't know if it was enough. Unofficially for the moment, Verstappen is the champion. So let's see if that will be officially confirmed in our post-race coverage. Lando Norris split the 2, just recently shaved his hair during the week for charity. And he ends up, people said, oh, you know, he was much quicker with hair. Well, I think that's proved it wrong in race 2. A brilliant result in the second position. Sheldon van der Linde making his way past Jensen, putting him under pressure and forcing Jensen into a mistake in the closing lap. He ends up in 4th. Jordan Pepper with a good consistent result in 6th. Didn't see much from Pepper today, but a brilliant performance from him. They had himself ahead of Katzberg and Canapino. Rest of the top 10, as you can see on screen, is rounded out by Neil Verhagen, our BMW factory driver. Here's the rest of the top 20. See a few notable names down there. Daniel Juncadella, not where we normally see him in the sim racing world, all the way down in 14th. So a race to forget for Juncadella. It all started in qualifying when he started 19th. Just mucked up his lap and didn't get the best of runs as he started in the top 10 in race 1. Wasn't the best way to cap off race number 2 here from Suzuka. We cycle through past your top 20. You see Bent Viscal in the 24th position, Formula 3 driver. Of course, Nicholas Hamilton at the end of the day ended up 26th ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, who at one point we saw Antonio turned around at the hairpin as we unfortunately had technical issues today, and we had a lot of them, so we were unable to show you the replay of that, but it seemed that he just lost it under traction, and that was the issue that occurred for Antonio Felix da Costa. But we'll speak to him post-race anyway here, as we will jump down in a few seconds' time. Just stay with us here.
Well, to be honest now... Oh, wait.
Guys, can we interrupt for a second? Hi, how is everybody after the race?
Oh, good, so good.
The neck hurts. G-force.
That was
Antonio,
big.
Antonio, I'll start with you this time because we flicked to you, and unfortunately we had some technical issues, so we couldn't show the entire replay, which I'm sure you'll be grateful for, but you unfortunately turned around at the exit of the hairpin, and we thought you made it up until about 10 seconds afterwards.
Yeah, me too. No, nobody touched me. I was a bit overconfident. I had a really good run on the guy ahead, and I touched the grass a little bit on the exit, and I lost it one way, then the other way, and then I finally spun. So, yeah, it's a shame because I was having a good streak of unspinning races, and now I span again.
Do you think that's a mistake you wouldn't make in the real world, just because you're able to feel a bit more of the car, through your butt?
Yeah, I mean, I keep spinning in the same. I'm obviously getting a lot better, getting more feel for it. But yeah, like in real life, I think last year in Formula E, I hadn't gone off track once in a full season on street tracks, and now here I probably spin 3 times a race. So, but it's how it is. There's the art of the sim racing as well, and it's actually been a cool challenge trying to master it.
And final comments from you for the day. We know we probably want to leave you to it because your race. Actually, no, you did end up finishing a couple laps down. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, no,
but,
yeah. I was having a cool run with the back markers there, but some fun guys back there, so it was still fun.
And you'll be coming back for the rest of them?
Oh yeah, so we had a lot of fun putting this up. Massive help from Redline and a couple of drivers involved. So it's been a lot of fun. I think it's amazing the amount of big names we've put here, and we have a big list of guys still wanting to join. So we might do a little break now just to let everyone rest. But for sure, I think given the situation in the world, we'll have time to do another season.
Yeah, most certainly. Now we'll leave you to it. That was Portuguese driver Antonio Felix da Costa.
Thank you, guys. See you later. Cheerio.
See you later, Antonio. Can we speak before we chat to Max Verstappen? Can we speak to Atse Kirchhoff? Atse, do we have you?
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you, mate? Number one. And can we also confirm whether or not Max is officially or unofficially the champion at the moment?
Well, first of all, I'm really good. Quite happy that everything worked out pretty well this championship. And yes, we can confirm Max is champion with the provisional results of 805 points total. And Kelvin will be P2 with 745 points, so 60 points difference between them. So congratulations, Max.
Yeah, thank you.
How does it feel, Max? This has to go surely on your Wikipedia page. This is the first thing I read at the top.
Do you want to edit in?
I'll go and edit it now. On a brighter note, it was not the best day for you because there were no race wins, but you've got the championship, something positive to leave with.
Yeah, I mean, of course, race 1, I could have possibly win the race, of course, but yeah, it's what it is. Still, it was all about just collecting a few points, which I needed also after my computer crash after Interlagos. Otherwise, it would have been won already. But yeah, it was good fun. These cars is the first day I've been driving them, so it was completely different to like a GTE car, of course. But it was good, cool track as well to drive. Of course, not the easiest to follow, but for driving, I think it's one of the best tracks in the world.
Yeah, definitely. It's one that you've never won here in Formula One, have you yet? I'm not sure. I might have got that wrong, but certainly
No,
in the Red Bull.
P2, P3.
Yeah, I thought so. But you're in the Red Bull, mate. Like that's a supercar around here. I can't wait. I mean, hopefully we get a season, and hopefully we get to come here during the year.
Yeah, I mean, we have to compete against Ferrari and Mercedes as well, you know. So they are not the easiest to beat, but we had some good runs there. So I hope in general that we get to race this year, and then I hope, of course, that we can get back to Japan. Also, of course, our partnership with Honda, you know, it all makes it a bit more special. And of course, you want to deliver a good kind of home result, because at the end of the day, it is like that. Because when you get there, the amount of fans like supporting you. I think last year we had a big grandstand there full of Honda fans. Even before the weekend started, I went and visit some Honda factories as well, with a show run as well. So, you know, there's a lot of attention there, and I'm always very happy to get back to Japan.
Yeah, lovely. Now, I'd say, Max, a lot of people don't know out there that you two, if I'm not mistaken, did work together at Van Amersfoort. This is back in 2014. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, I was trying to chase him, trying to keep him behind me, but that never worked out really well.
Well, you know, for me it was good because that was my first year in car racing in general, and then, you know, on the simulator you try to prepare as much as you can when you get to new tracks. And you know, Atse is very fast on the simulator, and back then, of course, he was fully into it as well. And yeah, it was a great reference for me to try and be as consistent as possible on the simulator, practice some racing as well, where you can overtake, where you have to defend, where you of course lose downforce in an F3 car. So for me, it was really nice to have someone like that, you know, helping me out, to be fully prepared before I got to that weekend.
Well,
It's
I'd say, I don't
quite
know.
funny actually, because in the beginning he drove me completely crazy. Every corner where he saw the smallest gap, he would go for the overtake, and I was not used to that from sim racing. So I was like, please stop making a move every corner. But every time he did it, he succeeded, and completely took me off my game.
Yeah, well,
He's got an opponent these days with me, so I keep him down.
That third voice there is Yanni Vecchio, who's also a Team Redline driver here. I'd say a lot of people don't remember that you probably still are, obviously, but one of the top sim racers in the world. Very underrated, mate. At least I remember.
Well, back in the day, I think it was 2012 when I drove the World Championship, 2011, and I finished P2 in the World Championship. That was actually my peak year. And after that, I started focusing more on the business side of sim racing and started building up my own company. So I had a little bit less focus on performing in the World Championship of sim racing, and a bit more on my business. But still here, still shining in this world, and super happy to come this far with Team Redline and everyone around us.
Well, dude, I remember in 2014, it was my first ever World Championship race, and I had a peek at you into the hairpin, and I was like, holy hell, man. I'm having a look at, I'd say, Kirchhoff, and I'm like, man, that's when you know you make it in sim racing, when you're having a peek up the inside of you. But I think eventually that race, you probably finished like 5 laps ahead of me at the end of the day. That's how quick you were. But final comments for the day. Max, I'm sure you'll be looking forward to the F3. How was the HBD today? Was it an enjoyable drive?
Yeah, it was good actually. It was a lot of fun to drive. It's just to get the tires to work in qualifying, because they take a bit of time before they actually grip up. I mean, it's the same for everyone, but yeah, today, it was all a bit new. And of course, you know, some cars have these new tire model where the first 2 laps are a bit off. But yeah, it was good. It was actually much better than I expected initially to drive this car. So who knows? Maybe I'll try it a few more times. But yeah, definitely F3 suits me better.
Yeah, I love it. I love the F3. We'll leave you guys to it, though. Great racing. Have a good one, guys. We'll jump up back to the commentary booth.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
So, Samil, do we have you there? You still here? We've left you in the commentary booth. You still alive, mate?
Yeah, I am. Very much so.
So, brilliant to talk to the guys after the race. They enjoyed the HPD, but next we head back to the Formula 3. We don't know the circuit yet. And it's, again, one of the best cars on the iRacing service. The new version 7 tire model just working so well, making it such an enjoyable drive.
Mr. Jonathan Simone, I must say one thing. We don't call it the NTMV7 anymore.
Oh, what do we call it now?
It's just called the new tyre model. It's just called the tyre model. Hello, everyone.
So that's Will Vincent, the voice you've been hearing over the past few weeks. Samil, what do you think about that now?
Well, one man that will certainly agree with you is Max Verstappen. He is a madman on that Formula 3 car, so it should be fun to see how he does over there. And the last time we were on F3s, Danny Uncadella was not too bad either. So should be interesting. Should be interesting the next time out. And what I'm really excited to see is what track they use, because of course the track can have a major impact on the way you drive. Should be fun, guys. Formula 3, I mean, it's a good car anyway.
Yep, and that race will be next Monday. It's your world's best talent back racing again on the 6th of April. So that's in a few days' time. And that will be for more racing action around a track and car combination. We'll find out on the day of the race. We know it's the F3, but what's going to pair with the F3? It will host round 7.
I'm just waiting for him to finish up.
Real Racers Never Quit. And that will be broadcasted on RaceBot TV. Thanks to everybody, of course, for joining us for today's broadcast. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Samil Aurora alongside me. We had Randy Cheneth on production and our entire Team Red Line crew as well. We'd like to thank Istvan Ballo on cameras and the rest of the production crew behind the scenes. From myself, hope you enjoyed the broadcast today and this RaceBot TV presentation. You can also visit Team Redline at teamredline.co.uk. Our winner today was Kelvin van der Linde, but our champion confirmed, Max Verstappen.